What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my playoff predictions for these playoffs. The matchups are set. It's time to see who we can crown the Super Bowl 57 champion this year. Um, yeah, it's been a month. Gonna try to do off-season content and just stuff happens, and uploading doesn't get as consistent as I'd like. But for those of you that stick around and watch the video still, thank you. And let's get into the playoff predictions. So starting off, we got the Chargers in Jacksonville. Now, originally I was kind of like, yeah, that's definitely like the black spot of these like playoff games. Like a lot of these games, maybe besides the Giants Vikings, just seems like really great games. Interesting. Even the Cowboys Buccaneers, and this one felt But the more I thought about it, like both these teams have gotten really hot on offense, and Trevor Lawrence has started to play amazing, just amazing football. And this actually might be a more entertaining game than I originally thought. In Jacksonville, it's not like being in LA would be that big of an advantage for the Chargers anyways, but it's definitely, there's something still to playing at home, especially when it's the playoffs, but Jacksonville still doesn't have that same atmosphere that you're going to get from a lot of other places. On paper, the Chargers are a more talented team, but just with the way the team's been playing and coached, the Jaguars are absolutely going to put up a fight. This is a tough one. I just don't know if the Jaguars are quite at that level to where they can get a win in a stage like this. Next year they can go far for sure. Getting to the playoffs is a first big step in general. I just think with that inexperience, the youngness, I think the Chargers are going to take this one. We got the Ravens in Cincinnati, and I'm going to take the upset here. I'm going to go with Baltimore because I think Lamar will play, because that's the big thing, right? If Lamar doesn't play, it's absolutely the Bengals game to win. Rather the Bengals game to lose. But if Lamar plays, which I think he will, it's such a huge boost to the Ravens, whose defense has played solid in the second half of the season. Even though they gave a bunch of points to Cincinnati last week, like that offense with Lamar is going to give you similar production and make it a competitive game. For me, the fact that you're playing back-to-back weeks in Cincinnati and you lost last week and you're probably going to get Lamar back, and maybe they won't, who knows. But based off the assumption that Lamar's coming back, it's the same opponent in the same location 2 weeks in a row. Give me Baltimore. Give me the other lower seed. Then we have Miami in Buffalo, and Miami just has not looked too hot recently. Tua has really taken a step down recently, and it's not even Tua playing right now. They have their third string quarterback in this last week with Skylar Thompson, who is a fine quarterback. He's one of my favorite like day three quarterbacks this last draft. But is Tua playing? We don't know. It doesn't matter because he's just not looked that hot even when he has played recently. And the Bills, man, they just look on a different level right now. They're up there with the Chiefs and the Bengals. I think those are my three teams, right, that are like the hot names, is the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. And yeah, for me, it's in Buffalo. That's a hard environment. It's going to be cold. The Dolphins, they're still a young team. They haven't looked too hot. It's their first playoff game. Give me the Bills in this one. I think this is going to be not an easy win, but maybe an easy win for Buffalo here. Then we have Dallas in Tampa Bay, and the Tom Brady Buccaneers 8-9, and they've got a playoff spot just for winning the division. Like on paper, again, the Buccaneers should lose this game. They're not as good of a team. They've not played as well this year. The offenses look stagnant at times. The defense doesn't play as well as it should. And Dallas's team has looked great most weeks, but then there's random games like last week where they just played like complete crap. And maybe, to a degree it's because like it wouldn't affect draft position all that much. Like I'm trying to remember if the Eagles were playing at the same time, but I think the Eagles were playing same time as Cowboys, so they still could have gotten the 1 seed for all they knew. So I don't really think it's an excuse to just be like, oh well, maybe they just weren't trying. But it was a bad performance against the Commanders last week, and so it's like, well, it should seem open and closed that Dallas can come in and win this game, similar to like Tampa Bay did against the Commanders a couple years ago. I don't know if it is, just because the Buccaneers look a bit better, disregarding this last week where, again, it wasn't super a big deal to win for them. And Dallas didn't look good. But I'm going to take Dallas to rebound just because they've looked so good for most of the season. And the Buccaneers, they've looked not so good for most of the season. It's in Tampa, but I'm going to take Dallas here for the upset. I don't even know if it is an upset. I don't know who's favored, but, on the road against Tom Brady, I'm going to give him the win. Giants in Minnesota. Everyone I see is taking the Giants in this game. And for me, give me the Vikings. I know everybody talks about how they're frauds and everything. Look, guys, at the end of the day, good teams find ways to win football games. Yeah, they've been very good in close game situations, right? But they wouldn't have won those games if they weren't a good team. I mean, you look at teams like the Broncos this year where they lost a ton of, one score games, but it's like that's what separates the good from the bad is can you win in those tight game situations? And the Vikings week in, week out find themselves able to do it. They've had some bad losses, and I do agree. I think they're an overrated team. I don't think realistically they have a shot at the Super Bowl this year, but for me, like the Giants, they're a good team. Brian DeBoer has been a huge part of that. The defense is solid. I just don't know if I trust Daniel Jones to go beat the Vikings in Minnesota. That was another thing I saw is people talking about like, well, it's not that hard to win in Minnesota. They're a good team. I think the hate has to stop. Everybody wants to see the Giants win, and understandably so, but give me the Vikings here in this one. Then we have the Seahawks in San Francisco, and Seahawks, they snuck in, winning against the Rams in overtime, and then the Lions beating the Packers. They're a good team, but again, it's just they're not Super Bowl material. Geno Smith has looked much cooler recently because, let's be honest, he's not actually that good. It's Pete Carroll that's made him look good. And as for the 49ers, Brock Purdy is rolling. That offense looks elite. The defense looks dominant. The Seahawks are good on offense, and they've got good coaching, but the defense isn't all that. In San Francisco, give me the Niners here. I'd be surprised to see. I think that'd be the shocker. I can see all these other games going the other way, except for maybe Miami. But there's a world where Miami does pull out a win here. I mean, I just don't see that happening with Seattle here, but who knows? They've surprised me all season. Moving on to the divisional round, if I can get up here to go. Moving on to the divisional round, we got the Chargers in Buffalo. Again, that's just a tough environment. Buffalo, it's cold, very passionate fans. For the Chargers here, where, they're still, younger, I think the Bills definitely have a better team than the Chargers do. I think there's better coaching there. It's at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, yeah, the Chargers could win this game, but are they going to beat the Bills on the road? I just probably not. I'm going to take the Bills in this one. They're just the far better team. And kind of the same thing here with the Ravens Chiefs, where, I do like the Ravens with Lamar. I think they're a much, much better team with him. And it'll be a competitive game, but at the end of the day, just in Arrowhead, in the playoffs, right, Chiefs have had a week of rest. I'm taking the Chiefs here. Maybe it's a little bland to have these two go at it, but it's just what makes sense here. I don't see any upsets going on there. In the NFC side of things, we got the Vikings in San Francisco. And, as much as I think the Vikings are a little overhated, I mean, there's a degree where it's again, the Vikings, they've just been dominant. Brock Purdy's been fantastic for them. I just don't see Minnesota outscoring or stopping either side of the Niners. So in San Francisco, give me the win here for the 49ers. And then we got Dallas against the Eagles. And I mean, the Cowboys have shown their lapses at times, and the Eagles haven't looked too hot recently. At the same time, the Cowboys barely beat the Eagles, with Gardner Minshew, who did not look good. And I don't even think that's a product of the defense just being good. I mean, Gardner Minshew still put up 34 points. He's just not that bad of a quarterback. But he definitely didn't play bad because of the defense. It's kind of a combo of the two for me. Jalen Hurts just operates the offense much better. If it took you 40 points to beat the Eagles by one score with Gardner Minshew, Now they've got Jalen Hurts back, and they've had a week of rest in Philadelphia in the play. Yeah, just give me the Eagles here. The Cowboys, it's time for another choke job. Moving on to the championships, we've got the 2 and the 1 seed in both divisions, conferences. We got Buffalo in Arrowhead, and man, maybe that's the game of the year. AFC Championship in Arrowhead, the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that's a tough one. Before the season, this was my AFC Championship, and I actually took the Bills to upset. Just because I had Josh Allen with MVP, and I thought the Bills were going to be like this unstoppable force, but the Chiefs were still just going to be that good. So I mean, this is just tough because these are two very good teams, right? I mean, I'd say the best in the league, and yeah, it's just a tough pick, right? We've seen this matchup before, and Mahomes has come out on top, and it's not because the Bills play bad by any means. And I'd like to sit here and say, okay, this is finally Buffalo's year, and it'd be cool to see them win a Super Bowl. They were my picks again before the season. But what the Bills and the Chiefs, it's just so difficult to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead in this kind of situation. The Bengals did it last year, so why can't the Bills, right? Ultimately, for me, I think Josh Allen and the Bills will have their success. It just feels like it's time for Mahomes to go back. It just feels weird at this point to not have the Chiefs, in a Super Bowl because, you have them 2 years in a row, and then, the Bengals beat them last year, where it kind of just feels like this big surprise upset where it's like, wow, the Bengals really did it. And in this scenario where it's like, okay, a lot of people are going to be picking the Bills because they don't want to see the Chiefs go, they want to see Josh Allen and the Bills. I think the Chiefs are going to upset that. They're going to make people mad again. I got the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl. And then we got the 49ers in Philadelphia, and this one's tough, right? Because is the Eagles that we've seen recently the Eagles that are going to show up in this game? I mean, again, I've talked about it, right? Where the 49ers, the offense looks dangerous, the defense looks dangerous, the coaching is great. As for the Eagles, I'd say the Niners have a better offense. And honestly, I'd say the Niners have a better defense, which is kind of weird, right? Because it's like the Eagles have been dominant all season. Yeah, that's also a tough one. It'll be a great game, obviously. It's in Philadelphia, which is a huge boost because this will be the first game of the playoffs that the Niners aren't playing at home. And honestly, even just something like that can do it for you, right? Not playing at home, playing in someone else's stadium in, the city of brotherly love in such a huge stage. And ultimately, I just don't know if I can quite pick Brock Purdy. As great as he's been, he's a great quarterback. I think he's showing it that there's something there for sure with him. I just can't see him taking his team to the Super Bowl. It'd be an amazing storyline, and it'd be what people are rooting for. But ultimately, I got to go with the Eagles here. It'll be a great game. Both of these games would be. But we get here to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 57 in Glendale. We got the Chiefs. We got the Eagles. And this one's not quite as hard for me because while the Niners and the Eagles are very good teams, like I said, to me, the Bengals, and I know the Bengals went out in the wild card, just kind of what I feel is going to happen, but to me, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Bills are just the top three teams in the league that are just in a tier of their own. Again, Niners and Eagles, very good teams. They're just not quite these three AFC teams that just look to be completely dangerous for years to come. And so, absolutely Eagles could win this. They've been great all year. For me, it's time for Patrick Mahomes to get his second Super Bowl, his second Super Bowl MVP. I think he'll get an actual MVP this year. I just feel it's the Chiefs' year to get that number 2, because a lot of people are going to start talking about, is Patrick Mahomes the next Aaron Rodgers, where he looks great, they look destined, are they going to win more than one? They should win a bunch, and then they don't ever. Those conversations would start if the Chiefs don't win this year. and I think it's their year to go back. I think it's their year to win. And Reed and Mahomes get their number 2. That's how I see it playing out. But let me know down below what you guys think is going to happen, who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's the Super Bowl MVP going to be. I'm going to have awards out in a separate video soon, and then some other fun videos. 2003, 2013 redraft, revisiting the 2018 draft. I'm going to do a quarterback carousel like I did last year. Mock drafts, absolutely 100% sure to come. Positional rankings, big boards. Stay tuned for all of that draft stuff. It's what I do. So if you want to stay tuned for that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the like while you're at it. Please, helps out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.